What's up guys? Before we get into today's video, I just wanted to let you guys know we're hosting a webinar in mid-August. There'll be a link in the description below with different times. There's going to be 2 live webinars. It's going to be on the ways that we find Chinese manufacturers, so the way our company, Sourcefine Asia, researches and vets Chinese manufacturers, and then there'll be a little bit of a bonus in terms of how we sort of elevate our relationships with them. Speaking of elevate, the name of the method that we use is called the SAFE method. So if you guys have checked out our ebook, you should be a little bit familiar with this. So S stands for search, A stands for assess, F stands for finalize, and E stands for elevate. So I hope to see you guys on that live webinar. Again, link is in the description. Sign up today. There's only going to be a limited amount of seats. I believe we're only taking about 50 people on the first webinar. If there's a huge demand, then we might increase that, but sign up today so you don't miss your spot. What's up YouTube, it's Rico here, CEO of Sourcefine Asia, co-host of the Management Podcast, and I'm back with another one. Today's video is about how to save money on ordering samples from China.
Space, I'll blast through it like a rocket. Let's the beat out. Swoop in, beat it and rock it. Tryna pave my way, take center stage and rock it. Words from a sage, eyes on the road is rough and rocky. Yeah, gone for a while, but I'm back here.
The biggest mistake I see people make when they're ordering samples from China is not doing enough research. I think a lot of times people, especially if they can get a sample for free, they just talk to a couple of factories and then order samples. I think you should take your time a little bit. Like, you want to, one, make sure that you're not just ordering samples just for the sake of ordering samples. So make sure that you have an actual kind of relationship with that factory and make sure they understand your requirements. Because what could happen is you could order a sample, have it shipped all the way to the US or to Canada or to Europe, and then it arrives and it's the wrong sample. And you've already spent $60 in shipping or $40 in shipping, and now you have to order another one, right? So like, that's one. You're gonna be wasting time if you just kind of like order samples randomly. Just because a sample is free from a factory doesn't necessarily mean that you should jump on it, because again, like I mentioned, the shipping cost. The standard rate for samples is typically 3x the per unit cost. Specifically what I'm talking about is OEM samples. I'm not talking about ODM samples. ODM samples really depends on the product. It depends on the relationship that you have with the factory. It depends on the contract that you have with the factory, how long have you been working with them. Like, that's a completely different story. But for you guys, most of you guys are going to be selling on Amazon or your own e-commerce stores, and you're selling white label products that already exist. It's around 3x the per unit cost. You can negotiate the per unit cost down. You can also stipulate that if you place an order with the factory, they refund you for what you paid on the samples. And then another trick, I think, is sometimes if you tell factories that you're ordering samples from multiple factories, they will give you a sample for free. Sometimes if you just ask them if you could get the sample for free, they will give you a sample for free. Some other tricks that my friends have used, we don't have to use it because we're actually a buying office in China, is they will say, hey, I'm the buying office in China and I'm buying samples on behalf of my client. If you can get me a sample for free, I'm more likely to push you towards my client. So some of my friends who are Amazon sellers use those kind of tricks, and it works because they do want to win your business, and sometimes factories take you a little bit more seriously if you are a buying office or a trading company that's working in between with a client. It means, from their perspective, it looks like the client has enough money to hire a consultant, so therefore they must be a serious buyer. Beyond even the sampling process, you can use that as a negotiation tactic when you want to actually place the order. Another big thing, I think, is if you want to save money on samples, consolidating your shipments before they leave China. There's a couple different things besides even saving money. This is going to be helpful because if you consolidate your shipments, a lot of times factories will send, one, the wrong sample, like I mentioned before. Two, they might send things that you didn't even request because they're just trying to, let's say, advertise some of the other products that they make. And then 3, if you ship a product from China, right, the way shipping is measured, the way a shipping fee is measured is based off of cubic meters. It's not based off of the actual, it's not just the size, it's not just the weight of the product, it's both. So if you were to take fidget spinners, for example, if you were to order 1 fidget spinner and ship it over to Canada, it's going to be $60. If you put 5 in a box and ship it over to Canada, it's probably going to be $60 as well, because the cubic meters, the space that it takes in the plane or the container or whatever, is going to be the same. So if you can find a buying office like mine, where you ship over your samples, like we do this all the time. We have a sampling service, starts at $99 up to $150. We receive samples at our office. We consolidate, let's say 5, 6, 7 different samples. We do a review, take photos, take pictures. We remove any of the bullshit samples that the factory sent you, and then we ship it out to you, and you save hundreds of dollars in that process. So I know this is like me being a little bit advertising, but it's just the reality of the situation is that if you pay a company like mine $99 to receive the samples at our office in China, 1, we review the samples, and 2, we consolidate those shipments. So rather than you paying $300, you pay, let's say, $150 with shipping, and you save money on that in the process, and you make sure you're getting the right samples. So I hope you enjoyed my tips on how to save money on ordering samples from China. Again, this is for OEM customers. I will probably do a separate video on ODM. And if you like this kind of content, please like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys next week.
Yeah, feels like a long road ahead. It's been a long time coming. Time no day, man, for do to get some bread. Hoping all of our dreams will surely amount to something. We were ahead, never we hungry for God. Not keep up the whole. Never ya we could not wait, me bang up. I for be in only Tamazin, but we